At Press Rec, our work is so much about everybody's stories that we wanted to take some time and tell some of our own stories about making these videos. So we're going to film a couple videos giving some director's commentary. We're going to watch some of our favorite films that we've made for brands and talk to you about how we made them, what challenges that we might have faced, and what techniques that we used to make the pieces. So today we're going to start with Bill Hattan, the Bobcat video. It was a customer story that we made at the end of 2022, and we traveled from North Carolina to Arizona to shoot this. Do you want to talk a little bit about the crew and who we brought with us?
Yeah, we had a 5-person crew for this one. It was yourself and me as directing and lead camera. Then we had Lucas Pruitt and Caroline Almy running cameras, and then also Walker Anderson as our photographer. So a really solid crew.
Yep, 5-person team, 2-day shoot with a little bit of travel. And then I don't remember exactly how much time in post, but maybe a couple weeks, 3 or so weeks in post between back and forths with, getting everything approved by the customer and getting the thing uploaded. So all told, it was probably our usual 6 to 8 weeks process for something like this. And deliverables on this piece were like the main video. And then we did a 60-second cut down, which was 16 by 9, a 15-second cut down, which was a vertical for like Instagram Reels or TikTok, and then all the stills that Walker and the rest of our team captured while we were out there. So off rip, before I hit play, like what's the most memorable thing that sticks out to you about this video when you think about it?
I mean, I guess I'd never spent any time with any kind of like amputee, so just seeing this guy, this older gentleman who was just not fazed by having this major disability and just get up and whipping these tractors around like it's nothing. It was really inspirational to see that. He had a really positive outlook on life, and he was really interested on the video side of what we were doing and how we were like telling the story. So it was cool to get to know him over that week we were there and tell his story from our view.
Yeah, Bill's a pretty amazing person. All right, well, let's watch here. Do you remember setting up for this first
Yeah,
shot?
this was actually an idea that I think you and I had long before we showed up. We knew that we needed some kind of powerful opening shot to reveal that he was an amputee.
Yeah, so kind of starting, like we shot that on a gimbal with, I think, the A1, and starting in the dirt and then kind of slowly coming up to do the reveal. We really wanted the shot to like show his shoes and then show the prosthetics and then show him getting into the machine. Like you mentioned, we had an idea of kind of what we wanted to do, but like the dirt where we were in Arizona, it was like showing his footprints so perfectly. And I remember thinking while we were there, like, well, this is the way we got to do it.
Yeah, and I think we don't always do this where we like premeditate like a powerful opening shot. A lot of times we don't do that. We try to just kind of be more natural, fly on the wall documentarians, and just naturally find a shot that works as an opener in post. But for this one, we really kind of had this planned out like weeks in advance. We didn't know exactly how we were going to shoot it. The idea was start on the ground, pan up, the reveal, up to him walking to get on the machine.
Yeah.
This was the very last thing we filmed too, I believe, or one of the very last things before we walked off. We were waiting for the light to get better.
Yep.
The final day of shooting to get this
That's
shot.
right. Yeah.
Where I would be.
This drone stuff was really cool there. They had such a beautiful location.
I have to give a shout out to Lucas Pruitt, our editor, for the sound design on those drone shots. Really add a lot of power. The silence sometimes can be powerful alone, right?
Yeah.
Where we were working. And
So here's his interview shot. We'll look at the first interview shot. So this kind of wide in his living room here. I remember specifically like rearranging every plant in here.
And remember, we also started with him sitting in the wheelchair, and it just felt too forced. So we got him out of the wheelchair into a real chair. We just really wanted to use this wide shot to illustrate this guy is an amputee, bilateral amputee. But we felt like it was it just felt too forced, right, in the wheelchair. So that's why we said, let's just sit him in a normal chair.
Yeah, I forgot about the wheelchair thing. You're right. We did try a couple different chairs, and it was kind of tight. So like behind us in the room was his kitchen. So we were like kind of backed up against like the countertops in his kitchen, sort of facing that way. And we had, I don't know, maybe 6 or so people in that room while we were conducting the interview. And Bill really crushed it. I remember we asked him the first question. It was like, tell me a little bit about yourself. And in like 10 perfect minutes, he gave us his entire life story and a lot of what we used in the video just from like, tell me a little bit about yourself. That's pretty rare.
Yeah, you did this interview. You directed this interview, and you did a really good job, kind of like reading his emotions and letting him speak and making him feel comfortable. I know he like came up to you after and said, thanks for that thoughtful interview. You made me feel really comfortable on this. So it's always good when you hear someone acknowledge that, I know this is like tough stuff to talk about, but you did a really good job kind of navigating this one very smoothly and made him feel comfortable. And like you said, you asked him one question and he gave us his life story, and it was really good. But then you kind of went a little deeper. You poked into some of the subjects a little deeper and asked for more. And he gave us some golden sound bites here. I have to say, this is some of the best sound bites we've gotten from some of these Bobcat customer story pieces.
Bill was great. Really enjoyed his company, and that conversation is one that really sticks with me as being really powerful, for sure.
Road where we were working and hit us at 80 miles an hour. And I lost both.
So we wanted to talk pretty early in the piece about his accident.
Had a decision to make.
Everything that he went through.
That, hey, you know what? I'm not going to let this stand in my way. This right here is going to be wildflowers, so this trench is really important. We're in the middle of doing a total new landscape project, and part of that project is a pond that I'm building. Our pond is 110 feet long by 65 feet wide.
You remember how many times we had to get him to do this?
Yeah. Yeah, we wanted some kind of like diagram to show what he was trying to explain to us. We needed something on paper to where we could see like some plans. So he had this hanging up on his wall. We didn't put it there. It was actually on his wall in his like little kitchen living room. So this is his project, his backyard project that he's very proud of.
It shows you how big of a part of his life like this project is, right? And he talks about this in the piece, but he thought he was never going to be able to work again. And by being able to control these machines with his hands, he's able to do so much more. And he took so much pride in the ability for like him to tackle this himself with like a handful of his employees.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing stuff. How passionate he was about like something that I personally wouldn't be passionate about building a pond.
Right.
But it's like cool to see.
You can totally see this guy's like found his like purpose later in life. Now, like even with his being an amputee, it's not slowing him down at all. And it's cool that like the technology side has caught up with him, where the hand controls in the Bobcat do allow him to do pretty much everything he needs to do without legs. That's pretty insane if you really think about it. 10 years ago, this would have been impossible, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
When we first purchased the property, it was
this cool editing that Lucas did with these old photos.
The house wasn't even here yet. We looked at the landscape.
The landscape out there
like,
was so beautiful.
Wow, we're going to buy this.
That shot.
Honestly,
That was one that I sat there and filmed the reflection of the water for a long time. I was throwing little pebbles out in the water trying to get the perfect splash. And I just filmed this shot for probably 10 or 15 minutes, not knowing if any of it would be usable, but I just kind of played around and kind of the light was hitting the water just right to get that reflection. And I just kind of like filmed this way too long to get this one little quick shot. But those are the details that matter sometimes,
The
right?
first time I saw it, I thought Lucas did it in post or Caroline did it in post. I didn't realize you had shot it that way until you told me.
And it was one of those
after.
things, like I wasn't really looking for the shot. I was just like carrying my camera and I looked at the mud pit. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I can see the reflection. Maybe I should hang on a second. Let me grab the shot. And I think if I remember correctly, I was filming this upside down, but I knew we could flip it in post. I think I was filming this upside down knowing that we could correct
That's
it.
the perfect example of one of those shots that like we could have never written. We could have never storyboarded. We could not have planned it. It was just like you had to be there to feel it out and figure it out and find it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have been able to say like, oh, we're definitely going to get a reflection.
Right.
There.
Right.
You know, like,
another interesting thing too is like kind of how we planned this shoot. We knew that we had to travel all the way across country to get to Arizona to do the shoot. And we were trying to figure out how to time like getting there. We had to like arrive in Phoenix, drive 2.5 hours up in the mountains of Prescott Valley where he lives. So we timed it to where we could arrive into Phoenix. I want to say it was like between like 12 and 2 that day. And then we knew we'd have a 2-hour drive. So we were hoping that we'd arrive and have a nice sunset. And we lucked out. We arrived and we had about 2-ish hours of good light. And we really wanted to capitalize on like getting all of our great B-roll on day one, just knowing that's in the can to where we show up day 2, we focus more on the story and we hang out till sunset one more time. So this is a good way that we plan like a shoot across country, but we only had, it was technically like a day and a half to film it, but we still had 2 really good magic hours to pull from. So I do think for this type of storytelling, everything can't always be magic hour, but you do need to plan your day accordingly to where you have those moments to where you can step out when the sun is low and it looks nice and get those shots.
Yep. It gives you buffer for if there is rain or bad weather for any reason, but also it helps like the subject get a lot more comfortable with the crew. And I mean, in this instance, like we're going to this guy's house, we're hanging out like with his dogs, like on his property. So it helps him be a lot more at ease as we're filming the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, it's nice too to like when you show up at someone's house that you never met, maybe you've interviewed them online or, you know, had email conversations or phone conversations. It's still really awkward to like whip the camera out and put it right in their face as soon as you meet them. So something like this where you can just show up and kind of be fly on the wall and shoot B-roll. We were shooting a lot of long lenses, so we were just kind of like standing back, kind of capturing wide, punched in shots. I think it allows the subject, even if it's like subconsciously, to get comfortable like being around cameras. Not everybody is around cameras all the time like we are, especially the people that we document. So I don't think Bill had been on TV like once or twice in that long years ago, but I don't think he'd had like a real crew ever show up at his house like this. So I think making your subject feel really comfortable will help you tell your story in an authentic way and not be too forced or get yourself in like uncomfortable situations with your subject.
Yeah, definitely.
It has been in the forefront of my whole project. When the Bobcat equipment showed up, the eagerness to learn it was in my heart.
The build up to the Bobcat sequence.
So this was some of the first shots we filmed when the light was hitting his backyard just perfectly.
We have a
We were really proud of that stuff as we were getting it.
And we also have an S770 skid steer. As you can see, I can use those grates to
Yeah, so here's a good example of like an on-the-fly kind of interview and shot as he's climbing into the Bobcat, right? Like we have him and his wife mic'd up here, like in this 2-shot. And yeah, we could have filmed during the interview him talk about how he gets in and out of the machine, but having him in the machine explaining that is a lot more powerful. And you can tell from the lighting here that we shot this closer to like the middle of the day when the lighting wasn't as epic. So it's also a good way to kind of fill that middle part of the day while you're waiting for sunrise or sunset to get those longer shadows and the more pretty shots.
Yeah, exactly. I think whenever you can throw from like an interview sit down shot to like an in the field type shot, it pulls you away from like the in the seat talking head shot, and it honestly kind of humanizes your subject a little bit more because you're seeing them live what they're telling you about. So I think just showing this soundbite on the fly, like you said, and you can't really plan these sound bites. You can have like a question in mind, but you can't ever predict what they're going to say. So you and I have gotten pretty good at just knowing at least a few times a day, like run up on your subject unannounced. Don't tell them, just say, I'm going to just go up with the stick mic. Or if you have them lobbed, a lot of times we do try to leave our subject lobbed up for a full day if we know that we're going to be doing some of this run and gun audio.
Yeah,
but
like
for this one,
we'll put it on them during the interview and then keep it with them so that they kind of forget about it as much as they can. They'll feel the wire in the pack, but they kind of forget that everything that they're being said, as long as we're rolling, is getting captured. So
exactly.
It helps us get some of those more candid moments.
Candid real life moments. That's what you want. This doesn't feel forced. I mean, yes, his wife's standing right next to him. We did ask his wife to stand next to him and have this conversation, but I don't think a person watching this would necessarily know that as they're watching this, that we kind of staged this. But the conversation was very natural. We didn't tell them what to say. I think we prompted a question or a subject, like, Julie, ask him about this. And then she did, and then they just had a natural back and forth, and it worked out really well.
Yeah.
I can't believe he can do it.
The hand controls are my savior. I love the precision of the hand controls. That's a Bobcat signature. Virtually have control.
So lightly working in the brand here where he's talking about controlling the machine with just his hands. That's kind of our subtle way of doing the branding without him saying like, oh, I love Bobcat, go buy a Bobcat. Oh, I love Red Bull, make sure you buy a can of Red Bull today, right? It's
the why.
Yeah.
It's the authentic why, not the in-your-face marketing, right?
And it's real.
Yeah.
It's real. So these moments of nat sound where the music kind of breaks serve as like a good transition.
He's out here all the time. When he can be, he's
Where
out
the
here.
rest of the piece from here on out, we're not really talking about Bobcat anymore. We're talking
Bobcat
about
makes it so
him.
easy to run run their equipment.
And his story, his experience.
So it allows me not to focus on the equipment so much as to focus on my job and focus on the end result.
It's also a good example of using music to kind of drive the mood.
I found my passion digging with the E50, and I feel so free when I'm in this, you know, because my legs don't play a factor. I feel like I'm productive. I feel like I'm worth something, you know, versus just being in a chair.
That soundbite of him in the machine was like one of the first things that we filmed. I remember running up to him, like just with the mic that's on the camera, and I just said, "What's your favorite thing about this machine?" And he gave us that.
You could have never planned what he would say.
Never.
That's what
could have
makes it
known.
special.
So powerful.
Yeah.
Right. And totally ties everything up that we talk about across the whole piece in that one sentence.
Yeah.
He says, "I'm worth something," instead of just being in a chair.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a home run, right? When you get those sound bites, it's like
punch you right in the gut.
Yeah. But like the filmmaker inside of you is always like, yes, like you know that when you capture something like that, that it's special and it's going to find its way into the piece you're making.
Yeah.
Again, you couldn't have like prompted him to say that. It wouldn't have come out authentic and bold like it did if that was like scripted.
Yeah. So true. So after watching that, what's your favorite part? What's one thing that kind of stands out? Just to kind of wrap us up.
You know, we're so close to the spot because we were like involved in pre-production, production, and post, right? So we watch this piece and see different things that I think the average person watching this sees. You know, I think guys like you and me, you especially, pay close attention to all the technical stuff, right? Like some people might say, oh, if you look at this shot, the sun is clipping and the background, right? You could say that, but you know, I can zoom out now, watch this piece, and enjoy it for what it is without picking apart every shot. Like it's easy to do when you're so close to something, as to after the 100th time you've watched it, you're not so much focusing on the story, you're focusing on all the little details that you don't like. But I think for me, what makes this special is I can like take a step back and watch this like more objectively now than subjectively and say, that's a good piece. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of our team for putting so much hard work and thought into this one. But I think the main takeaways are, what makes this piece really special is that we showed that the client, Bobcat Tractors, they provide the equipment that allows a person like this who is an amputee, disabled, to perform a certain task that they wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So that's something that's really special. And when we work with brands, we try to find stories like this all the time, but a lot of times bigger brands just they gloss over something like this.
Yeah.
Right. But it was cool that Bobcat found him, recognized this as an awesome story, brought it to us, and then we were able to put our little spin on it.
For sure. Yeah. Took a chance on Bill, right?
Yeah.
I think the one thing that's going to stick with me is like every single one of these that we make and every person that we film, when they share their story with us, it's like they leave a little, like a breadcrumb with us, right? And after so many years of doing this, there's so many, and I feel so like full and fortunate to have so many of these shared experiences with different people, all different walks of life, all over the country and in some cases the world, that have changed the way that I view the world in a different way.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have expected that from like getting hired to do a job about a customer who uses compact equipment.
I think getting to do a lot of stories like this, like you said perfectly, it allows like us as filmmakers to like self-reflect and show empathy for what other people go through. And just, again, you kind of feel like you feel full of, I guess, gratefulness, right? Because it always shows us a different perspective. We would have never met Bill if we didn't have the opportunity to make this video. So getting to work with people that have special stories and teach us something new about life is always something that's really fulfilling.
Yeah. I'm always going to remember this piece and working with Bill and with Bobcat on this. This is really, really a special one to me.
For sure.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the folks at Bobcat for letting us tell this story. This was a lot of fun. Shout out to Bill for letting us come take over his backyard for a couple days.
For sure.
Insist that this is an isolated incident. We will continue to keep you informed as this story unfolds. That's hard to be instead. Please, that darn